7 again says that he's not given us a spirit of fear or timidity or cowardice, but a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. A sound mind. So I think that some are struggling with sleep at night, and some, it's not really they're worried about tomorrow. It's just that they are deeply, deeply depressed on the inside. Deeply, deeply depressed. And the reason for the depression is because the individual is simply eating off of the wrong tree. Jesus, in the beginning of the Bible, in Genesis chapter 1, he then brings the earth into existence and all of these kind of things, and there's the whole creation story. It says he's made man in his image and in his likeness, and they will rule over the earth. Then we go into Genesis chapter 2. He then takes man from the dust, and he forms the body of the man, and he puts man inside of the man's spirit. He puts it inside, and now we have our first human being. His name is Adam. We all know our great ancestor Adam. He obviously ate the apple. All right. And then what happened was God gives Adam just a couple of instructions, and he says to him, you may eat off of any tree in the garden except for one particular tree. Right? He said, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, don't eat off of that tree. And then God actually gives a promise that I think that we don't actually talk about that often. Because we know Jeremiah 29 verse 11, which is great. It's a wonderful promise. But God gives a particular promise in Genesis chapter 2. And he says these words, if you eat off of that tree, the tree of the knowledge of what? It's the knowledge not just of evil, but it's good and evil. Right? So you basically, and this is what the enemy deceived Adam and Eve by saying that if you eat off of that, you are going to be now like God. And you can now distinguish between what is good and evil. I think it's clear as day that us as human beings sometimes do not know how to distinguish between what is good and evil. I mean, in today's day and age, we call what is evil, we call good, and what is good, we call evil. So we obviously don't know how to be God, which is, it's evident, right? But in other words, he says, if you eat, God said, if you eat off of that tree, what's going to happen? He says, it's a promise. You are certainly going to die. It's guaranteed it's going to flop. It's like playing Jenga, you know the game Jenga, the blocks, and then you got to take the block off and then hoping that the tower doesn't topple. So what we've tried to do with our lives is, Jesus Christ is the chief cornerstone, right? Now chief, that implies like he's the most important one. He's the chief, like, you know, Spur, like he's the chief. He's the chief cornerstone, meaning that if you pull him out, what's going to happen? Al daai goeders gaan inval. Everything is going to come toppling down. Why? Because he's the chief cornerstone. That's the way it's designed, right? So the more, if you pull him out, guaranteed things are going to fall over. If you eat off of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, guaranteed, God says, God promised this. He said, you will certainly die. And this is where, on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, this is where the branches of fear begin to grow. This is where the branches of anxiety begin to grow. The branches of depression, the branches of undealt with trauma and pain. It grows on that tree of the knowledge of good and evil because, listen, as human beings, we can justify anything. Yeah. Literally anything. We can justify it. I mean, we recently had the Grammys. I don't know if you guys saw what happened at the Grammy Awards, with some of the performances that took place over there. And then they did an interview, TMZ did an interview with the leader, the global leader of the Satanic Church, regarding the performance and what his take was on this particular performance. And the response was absolutely shocking. He even said it's not even that bad. Right? And he called the 3 politicians that actually stood up and called it what it is, which is blatant evil and a mockery. All right, those 3 politicians that stood up, you just called them a bunch of snowflakes. So, and how you cannot be mixing religion and politics and all these different things. All right, and the world seems to be clapping their hands for this, right? And this shouldn't shock us because this kind of stuff has been happening for some time. It's just more exposed now because we've got these little computers in our pockets, right? But Jesus did say it is going to happen. But this is where the tree of the knowledge of good and evil comes in, because people are calling that good. And then we wonder why our suicide rates are skyrocketing. We wonder why there is an increase in divorce rates. We wonder why there's an increase in broken down families. That is the reason why. Right? And we were trying to paint a picture yesterday, because the picture that we see is like, no, let me turn a bit like this. Let's just say this is like a big house. This blue wall is a big house, right? but this entire house is on fire. What is happening is, it's like as the world is running this way into this big, huge house that's on fire, no? Which we would all agree is absolutely crazy, right? So, but then what happens is, the people that are running away from this huge house, no problem, this huge house that is on fire, the people that are running away from this house, the world calls those people crazy.